Hi gang, Rob here. We are at Area 51 today, the home of Lon Humphrey Custom Knives, and we're sitting down talking with the man himself, Lon Humphrey. How you doing, Lon?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Just wanted to thank you for having us up here today.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you. I enjoy having people up to the shop when they can find the place.
You know, I was driving down from the hotel, and I'm thinking, man, I think I went too far. We were here last night, so I could find it this morning, and just about when I'm starting to think it's time to turn around, I saw you turn on the road, so I knew I was in the right place. But it is a little bit out of the way.
Yeah, it definitely sits back in the woods a little ways.
Yeah. So we spent most of the morning today kind of following a knife through your process, which was very cool.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be a good idea if we just sat down and talked a little bit about who you are, what you do, how you got here.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It was a long road. I started out kind of old school, doing shows before the internet Facebook thing. I don't even think Facebook was a thing when I started.
Wow.
And I did the show circuit. It was like, you know, make knives through the week and then go to the shows on the weekends. I did that for 6 or 8 months. And then I got picked up at by old Blind Horse Knives. I started finishing handles for them. That's kind of how I learned to go fast.
Right.
You know, and do a lot. And then, of course, you know, I ran into Mike Stewart, built a relationship with him, and he really fine-tuned me as to how to make a lot of knives and do them efficiently. I can't say enough good things about Mike.
Yeah.
You know,
I imagine it's kind of easy to be a maker of really high quality one-off custom knives and starve.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was literally, well, I've got an electric bill I got to pay, so I've got 10 knives on the table. So, you know, I can take $12 for each one of them and pay that bill.
Right.
Seriously, that's how it was when I started. You know,
One neat thing about watching your process is that even though you can make knives in pretty great volume, they're still all different, every
Correct.
single one of them.
Yeah. I try to do that's an intentional thing. Just so collectors can have something totally different than anybody else has got. You know, it's the only one in the world, so to speak. You know, not so much on some of maybe the high volume pieces, but like on these brutes, they're definitely one of a kind, each one of them.
Yeah.
You know.
So how long have you been making knives?
I made my first knife when I was 13.
Goodness
And I'm
gracious.
46 now.
Wow. But how long have you been making knives for a living?
2008 I was a millwright before that, working in a factory that made veneer. And you know, I had all the equipment. Had been making knives as a hobby. I had the hammer. I did not have the press at that point, but I did have the power hammer.
Wow.
And I did have the KMG grinder. But everything else I've gotten since 2008.
So although, for a collector or someone who buys and uses knives, Lon Humphrey knives might be a relatively new development last decade.
Right.
But your roots to making knives go back long before that.
Yeah.
Which is probably one reason that you're still forging knives out of a piece of 1095 instead of buying
CPM.
buying CPMS 30V or
Right.
Crewware. Or,
Yeah.
and doing all stock removal.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just like to forge.
Right.
You know. And I played around with doing the whole ornamental ironwork blacksmith thing for a while too, and that was even a harder market to try to sell stuff because you had to literally compete with stuff from Walmart. You know.
Oh, gracious.
Yeah. I remember one time going to an outdoor festival show, and I had a fireplace set, all forged, the shovel, the broom, the whole thing, you know, the poker, and big set of fireplace tongs, and some woman offered me $5 for it.
Oh! Talk about a gut punch.
Yeah, I packed up and I left. Literally threw everything in the truck and just quit. I was done.
Time to go back to making knives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your shop is in Central Ohio. We're
Yeah.
just a little bit east of Columbus.
Yeah.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with this part of the country, it's in the middle of a Midwestern / Eastern state, but we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah, this part of the state is really, I don't want to say it's Appalachia, but Appalachia actually starts south of us, but we're kind of in that zone to where we're kind of close to Pittsburgh and it's not a lot around us.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of agriculture here. I mean, you know, this is a tree farm. It's certified tree farm is what it is. So, nothing but trees, and then in the valley floor, or down on the flat ground, it's beans and corn.
Yeah.
You know.
So you're sitting in the middle of how many acres did you and your brother own?
Between the two of us, there's 114, but I have half of it and he has half of it. So.
And you use it, don't you?
I do.
You're an outdoorsman.
I am. I love it out here. I love to mushroom hunt. I love to, you know, deer hunt when I get the chance. Normally, anymore, I'm working. But it doesn't stop me from getting out.
Yeah.
You know, just walking.
So do you think your love for the outdoors and hunting and being in the woods, do you think that gives you some insight to making knives that
I do.
that helps?
I think it helps with design. I think it helps with, you know, function. There's a lot of cool designs that look just fantastic, but man, if you'd ever try to use one. You know. Yeah, that's about all I want to say about that.
So, you know, if a guy wanted to characterize a Lon Humphrey knife, certainly it's a work of art. It's a unique piece of handmade cutlery, but they're working knives, aren't
Yes, yeah, I make them to use.
they? Yeah.
You know, now every once in a while I will make a custom high-end Damascus, something really wild and cool. But for the most part, they're made to wear and beat up and just enjoy and use.
So tell me about the Brute. How did it come about, and what's happened to your business since that model came out?
Okay, I started doing Brutes years ago. I saw Joe Kiesler do a demonstration at one of the ABS hammer-ins, and he makes a Brute. He calls it a Brute de Forge. It's kind of a French translation of forged, unrefined, highly finished,
Right.
if that makes any sense. And I kind of took his and bastardized it and adapted it into something that was really a working knife that felt good in the hand. I took Joe Kiesler's idea of a Brute and I made it my own. It's got the forged in guard. It's not nearly as wide and as long as his is. I ground mine off so you could use it, so you could hold it in your hand.
Right.
You see that.
There you
And instead of starting out with a file, I just started out with a bar of steel and basically turned his big brute buoy into one of my brute hunters.
So when you say highly finished,
the handle, the spine, and the grind of the blade are the finished parts, and then the rough forging is the unfinished areas, and some of it, even in on that guard, is unfinished.
right? That has really it struck a chord with the collecting community.
It did. And you know, I don't want to say that I'm the only guy that's doing this. I don't want to say that I'm the first guy that's done it, but for whatever reason, it's worked well for me. The shop that I'm in built, you know, these built that shop.
That one model of knife was such a hot seller that it really enabled you to grow your business.
Yes, it did. It did. It was definitely my springboard. You know, and without this design, I probably would not be where I am.
And that interesting, I think that model happens at about the same time you start to develop this relationship with Mike.
Right.
So you got this knife that's selling like crazy, generating lots of income. At the same time, you have a man who knows how to grow this craft into a going concern, a money-making business.
Yes. Yeah. Mike definitely did help me promote it, and of course the dealers were awesome too. You know, and part of the, you know, I don't know if you really know why I had to build the shop out here.
We've talked a little bit about that, but yeah, tell the folks how you went from making knives in your garage to this two-building complex you've got here on the top of this hill.
Yeah, I had a neighbor that complained to the city that I was working out of my garage and it was a zoning violation. So the city came down and proceeded to do a full investigation and all this, and they determined that I was manufacturing inside of a residential zone. I tried to get a variance and went through that whole process, and they said no. They shot me down, and they gave me 6 months to get out. And at that point, you know, I wasn't generating enough income to pay rent at a commercial place and, you know, the whole thing. So I started making knives. The dealers told me, you know, keep sending them, we're selling them, don't stop. And I probably made about 200 of those things within a 6-month period, and I got out. And that was all done by hand on the anvil. And that's why I wore my elbow out.
Goodness gracious.
So, and that, you know, that's why I do everything as much as I can under the hammer and under the press, because my arm's just shot. But it did get me out, and I got my shop up here on the hill, and that story does have a happy ending.
You bet it does.
Yeah.
And didn't you tell me that building inspector tried to get you to tell him where you were moving so he could continue to harass you?
Yeah. Yep. I told him, I said that we're moving out of the county, and that's one reason why I call it Area 51. And this county doesn't have any zoning, so you know, I've talked to the people down at the tax office about it. They said, nope, there's no kind of other tax.
Okay.
I'm cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
how is it being, you know, going from making knives during the week and selling knives at shows on a weekend, transitioning from that marketing model to this modern one where everything's social media and online dealers?
Well, it's killed shows. You know, the only shows that are surviving and thriving are the ones that are an event, like the Blade Show. The Blade Show is an event. There's, you know, the pit afterwards, there's everybody going to dinner, there's, you know, the cutting competitions there. You know, there's more than just the knives.
Right.
So there's the camaraderie that you have with your fellow knife guys, be it collectors or makers or whichever side of the table you're on. And then the gathering in Las Vegas for Unusual Suspects.
For USN.
For the USN guys. You know, they've got their own show, and that's another very good show. But there again, it's not so much about the knives, it's more about the camaraderie you have with your fellow collector or maker. The knives are almost come secondary to that. And that's what show promoters don't understand, or they refuse to understand it, is social media has killed the knife show. Unfortunately. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I can post, if I do a custom, I can post it up on Facebook, and within minutes it'll be sold.
And you wish you had 5 more like it.
Right, yeah. So why do I want to spend $500 on a table, 3 days out of my life, $1,500 on a hotel room, you know, if you stay at the high-end place, to go and sell $600 or $700 worth of knives? That doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. And
it kind of leaves, I don't think it's such a bad thing, because it leaves the events where there's actual human contact.
Right.
It leaves them so you can enjoy that.
Right.
You don't have to worry about selling everything you brought.
Right.
Because those are going to sell anyway.
Yeah.
This is where you actually get to connect face to face with people and enjoy the community.
Right. And that's why I do the grind-ins. You know, I'll go up there to the grind-in and hang out and help Mike and just be around. That way I have that face-to-face interaction with the customers. Because guys that buy Mike's knives, they buy mine. And guys that buy my knives will buy Mike's. And they'll buy Todd Wansky, they'll buy Joey Cordova, and they'll buy Dan Tope, and they'll buy Matt Martin, and they'll buy Jesse Hemphill, and so Chris. So, you know, it's all interwoven, you know.
And great people to spend a weekend with.
Right, yeah. So.
Well, you know, since we're talking about human relationships in the knife business, your life has changed a little bit in the last year when it comes to other human beings, hasn't it?
Well, I can't really say that it's changed that much, other than it's legal now.
Yeah.
Cassie and I got married in October. Mike Stewart walked her down the aisle. And Derek and Art officiated the ceremony.
So that's Derek Bone of Knives Ship Free.
Yeah.
The best place to buy knives, period. And Art Kievit from
Bark River, who is, they're both pastors.
Right.
And then Zoe Chris made the wedding bands out of Damascus for us.
That's so cool. And Zoe makes those and sells them, doesn't he?
Yeah.
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 So you and Cassie got married. That was last fall.
Yes. It was in October.
Right after the grind-in.
Yeah, shortly after.
And Cassie's been she's been your partner in life for several years.
And
working here.
And yeah, she's been working for me full time for the last 2 years now. And you know, she's done an amazing job. She really has. Coming from her background as a pharmacy tech, where she counts pills and fills prescriptions, and you know.
So she has a natural attention to detail in her work ethic.
Right, right. But she has never been around a drill press. She's never been around a grinder. Never been around a cutting torch.
She has now.
Yeah, and, you know, I've kind of shown her how to do it, but she's picked up on it really quick. And she builds every knife that comes through here. I mean, that's a lot of steel. That's a lot of hand material.
So forging and grinding and polishing and finishing are you.
Right.
And assembling knives, and then final inspection and shipping are Cassie.
Yes. Yeah. So she, you know, I've said this to a couple different guys, but you know, she's built more knives than a lot of knife makers out there, and I'm pretty proud of that.
Absolutely.
You know, she's a good woman. I can't not say good things about her because she'll hit me.
And guys, here's an interesting aspect of all this. Lon pays Cassie, his wife, to find his mistakes and show them to him.
I do.
How many husbands do that?
Yeah.
Pays his wife to find and show him his mistakes.
That's right. And she better find them, because if she doesn't, then, you know, bad things will happen. Like, I'll get a call from Derek or Jason, and they'll yell at me.
So, and the Lon's two biggest dealers, Derek Bone, Knives Ship Free, and Jason Toon of DLT Trading.
Yeah.
Both up in that UP area of Michigan, right?
Yeah. Yeah, both of them are great guys to deal with. I just can't say enough good things about both of them. You know, there's this, I don't want to show favoritism. I don't, because they're both awesome.
Right.
You know, but.
It's kind of a cool dynamic.
Yeah.
You know, not only among the makers, but the dealers, there is competition, but everybody likes everybody.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, they both get along, for the most part.
For the most part.
Yeah. You know, and they're both great guys to deal with.
And I think both of them have an interest in custom makers entering into sort of semi-volume production and helping them along, helping promote them.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of knife dealer websites where, you know, they just want to carry, you know, Spyderco Benchmade, zero tolerance, and then, you know, your big fixed blade makers like, you know, let's say Tops, Ontario, maybe Bussey. But it's nice to have a couple dealers who really have a vested interest in helping small custom makers
turn into businessmen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know Derek and Jason are both dedicated to that.
Yeah. I you know, think about where I'm at now compared to where I was when I started in 2008 full time. I never would have imagined. You know, I got that building over there. We're sitting in the new building for the shipping department, and I'm looking at having another building put up so I can put in a CNC mill and start doing folders. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, cool stuff.
And when you say folders, traditional slip joints?
Well, maybe some traditional slip joints, but maybe some liner locks and some one-offs. You know, there's a lot you can do with a CNC mill. A lot.
Yes, there is.
So I've got ideas, and we'll see what happens.
So that kind of brings me to my next question. You know, we sort of talked about how you got started, how you've gotten to this point. You know, what's your vision for Lon Humphrey Knives in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I would like to grow it even bigger. I'd like to have some full-time employees other than Cassie and myself. My biggest problem is finding people that want to work. Seriously. Over the winter, I had help from the guy that runs the farmer's market down there at the bottom of the hill, because they're closed. Mm-hmm. He needed something to do. So I showed him how to finish handles, and he did a good job. And now we're kind of into these customs where, you know, it's kind of might be my hand to do it. And it's not that bad right now that I don't have another mouth to feed.
Right.
But once I work through this batch of brutes and whitetails, and then after that the muleys, once I get back to that, then I'm going to be back into my full production stuff again, and I'm going to need a guy. But find somebody who wants to work. I don't understand it.
You think it's generational?
Well, if it's generational, then that doesn't say much about my generation, how we raised our kids.
Yeah, we're the parents, certainly.
We could philosophize about this all day long and not have to come up with an answer.
So let's, as we sort of wrap up, for people who aren't familiar with Lon Humphrey custom knives, how would you characterize them in the market? You know, what about a Lon Humphrey knife makes it desirable to a user or a collector, and maybe a little different than other knives that are out on the market?
They're all unique. Mm-hmm. They're definitely have their own flavor, and that's not intentional, to try to make them stand out as different from everybody else's. You know, because you see something different if you're a collector, and you want that in your collection.
Yep.
So that's kind of done intentionally. And then there's the aspect about it that they're made to use. You know, I know Mike makes all his to use too, but I don't know. I like mine.
Of course you do. And that sort of brings me to the thing I want to end on. When we talk about the mechanical capability of a knife, and I know this is a part of your craft that you're pretty proud of. Mm-hmm. Especially your 1095 stuff, the way that you forge it, the way that you heat treat it, the way that you grind it. How do they do?
I've gotten good reports, and I test them vigorously prior to me starting to make them full time. Uh-huh. There's several things that I've done with them that I don't want to tell people about because I don't want them doing it.
Well, there's several things you've done to them that you've put on YouTube.
Yes, I have done some very abusive things to my knives on YouTube. You know, the chopping and the bending and the beating and the shooting and yeah. But
splitting bullets.
Yeah, splitting bullets out of the 44. But I mean, I have taken some of this black locust that we've got growing here that turns into iron when it's dead. We use it as fence posts around here. Like it's almost like Osage orange, but it's harder.
Got that same kind of knotted up grain.
Yeah. It's got a lot of I don't know, sap or resin or something in it that it doesn't rot. And when it does die, it turns into a stick of steel. But I've cut that in half across the grain with a sledgehammer and one of those brutes.
So, not coming in at angles, cutting wedges, but
right straight
driving it straight through the wood.
Yeah. And that was one of my tests after I perfected my heat treat. That, okay, well, if you can do that, it's going to stand up.
And guys, for those of you who are wondering, we're going to put up on the screen in between takes Lon's exact heat treat recipe for 1095. Wrong.
Yeah, we skipped all that part intentionally.
We'll not be showing any footage of the heat treat or the gauges.
But you know, it's nothing that's not already out there. I've just developed my own, and it's not rocket science. It's not voodoo. It's just mine.
And it's about doing that thing that works consistently the same way every time.
That's right. Yeah, and you know, like I said, I don't want to put it out there like it's something secret or something special because it's really not.
But what it all comes down to is you have these knives that are clearly that show evidence that they've been forged in a time-honored traditional method, married to superb high finishing with great cutting ability and durability. Yeah. That's a Lon Humphrey knife.
And you got to leave some mystery in it for people.
Right.
You know. So that's.
So how many of your knives have actual meteorite in them? Or can't you say?
I can't really say. Okay. You know, that's part of the Area 51 mystique.
Yeah. So if you ever have a Lon Humphrey knife and you wonder how, while you're holding it in your hand, that the the wood magically parted without the knife ever touching it. That's probably the meteorite?
Yeah, it could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
But it's really not a fact you can disclose.
I cannot neither confirm nor deny.
Right. Because the camo dudes are probably listening from outside the door.
They are. They're on top of the hill watching us.
We might have some footage of that later. Well, Lon, it's been great talking with you, and I hope the viewers have enjoyed getting a little insight into the man.
Yeah, I enjoyed having you up. It was
great being here.
Great day.
Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you, and I want to thank everybody that's bought my knives for supporting me and Cassie and what we're doing up here. I humbly appreciate what you've done. Thank you.